African heat wave starting tomorrow. Temperature's going to be in the high 90s for the next 9 days, Esther. No sign of rain. I'm
Wow.
worried. Yeah, I'm
Could
worried
be a
for fires.
scorcher.
That's going to be a scorcher, is right. And, it's just very hot and humid. It's got to be even hotter and humid. How's it over there in New England?
A little bit cool. It's raining today, but that's normal weather in Sicily. All right, so we're going to be talking about some of the current events going on. So the big news is, right, I'm calling AlItalia to confirm Alfred's flight from Catania to Rome, Rome to Boston. Guess what? Got canceled. I found out on the phone that the flight is canceled. And in fact, flights from Rome to Boston by AlItalia are now suspended. What big news, huh, Al?
Yeah, even my friend Steve Zahler, the day before yesterday, he booked a flight on AlItalia to come here, and then the next day they notified him that it's been canceled. AlItalia at the end of October is kaput. They're not going to be around anymore, Esther. They're being taken over by a new entity called ITA, and which is going to be a blessing in the skies because out of the 10,000 AlItalia workers, they're only rehiring back 2,750. And they're going to reduce greatly the amount of planes that they have. They got to kind of build it back up. AlItalia has got a very old inventory of planes.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, other people like Ryanair and some of these other regional carriers are swooping in to pick up those highly desirable, slots at the airports. The big difference is Milan Malpensa is going to be getting used quite a lot more. Fortunately, if you're coming from Boston, once the ITA kicks in November, it'll still be Boston to Rome, Rome to here.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other ones, it's going to be from the United States to Milan Malpensa to here. That was part of the deal, I guess.
Alfred, but how is that going to work? Because right now the government is subsidizing AlItalia. So is this company just going to take over? No more government subsidies?
Correct. That's correct. The biggest
That's good news.
holdup has been the last year has been the negotiations with the union.
Yeah.
So at one point in time, AlItalia threw up his hands and was going to actually declare bankruptcy. If they did that, all the union contracts would be, voided. So they came back to the table. It's been a very intense negotiation period, evidently.
Yeah.
I could just imagine how badly it's been. But anyways, 2,750 jobs were saved. They're
Good.
going to be union jobs. And I hope that it's not the old, cranky employees that don't do anything for AlItalia. I hope these young kids who really do the bulk of the work are going to get rehired instead of these old people who really don't care about it. AlItalia has gone way down in performance the last
For
5
sure.
years. Terrible.
And
Just
Alfred,
my opinion.
And Alfred, that's why I said to you years ago, I haven't flown AlItalia. I preferred to go KLM, Lufthansa, or Swiss Air. My experience flying from Catania to Boston was incredible. And in fact, I forgot to tell you this, Al. I got this card from a KLM employee. One of the flight attendants gave me this card. He wrote, "It was such a pleasure having you on board today." Imagine that. We want to wish you the most wonderful reunion with your mom, family, and friends after over 2 years of not being home. Please enjoy the typical Dutch cookies, because of course, yeah, look, I've got this on the KLM. Kind regards, the crew of KLM 617. Imagine that. A flight attendant took the time to write this postcard to me, and he gave me some of your favorites, Alfred. So I was very pleased. I was very pleased.
Fortunately, Delta Airlines is going to be picking up almost all the vouchers to Italy from the United States.
That's right.
Now, say what you want about Delta, but I'll tell you one thing about Delta: they're not gonna cancel the flight without telling the client. I know that much. I've taken Delta before. I also know that American Airlines flies into Italy as well. I'm sure others do, but the best one in my view is the one that you're on. KLM to Amsterdam, then Amsterdam to Rome, or
Swiss
Amsterdam
Air
to
too,
Catania. I think, or even Lufthansa is good too.
for sure.
Lufthansa goes Boston to where's it go? Hamburg. I think it's Hamburg, right? And then Hamburg to Catania.
Yeah.
But we'll
So
see. Right now, it's a lot of people coming into town. Hopefully,
now,
we'll see.
yeah. The other big news, of course, is the green certificate. The Prime Minister of Italy, Mario Draghi, giving a press conference and signing into law that from August 6th, you must have a green certificate to eat indoors, go to museums, go to events, go to sporting events, go to museum and several other indoor activities, and they're talking about a fine of 400 to 1,000 euros if you break it. I went online and got my green certificate. This is what it looks like. EU digital COVID, and then it comes with a code. Alfred has the same one. Now, as of the taping of this program, we don't really understand what's going to be required for people visiting from other countries besides the European Union, but they're working on that. But for right now,
If you have,
but for right now, Europeans, Italians have to have this European pass to get into restaurants and other venues.
you know, if you have the Center for Disease Control evidence that you've had your vaccinations, that's going to be okay. Okay. You
Yeah.
probably have to fill out something online, Esther. Am I correct in saying that prior
Yeah.
to your departure? Right.
Right.
And then the other thing is, you're absolutely going to have to wear a mask. As a matter of fact, you may not even be able to get into Italy at all unmasked. Okay.
That's
And
correct.
not only that, but if you give the airline attendants a hard time, they started to bar people yesterday, American Airlines especially. They started to bar people at the counter who started to put on hissy fits over the mask issue. So it looks like they're tightening the screws down a bit in the hopes of getting this year's tourist season into Europe, accomplished safely. I think that's what they're trying to do.
I mean, Alfred, wearing a mask is still obligatory indoors in Italy, and I don't foresee that being lifted. The other big news is that the state of emergency was extended to October 31st. And all that means, right, Alfred, is that the government can pass legislation, allocate money towards things having to do with COVID without having to go through Parliament. So that's the latest.
I think it gives Draghi too much power. I mean, that's basically ruling by fiat. Okay, that's what it's like. It's like an executive order in the United States. There are certain, as you know, as evidenced yesterday by the huge demonstrations in Italy, in Rome, in Pisa, in Florence, in Milano, in Catania, in Palermo, tens of thousands of people. Pardon me?
There was a huge one. I saw the videos in Palermo.
In Catania, it was huge too. Yeah.
Yeah.
They just feel that they're getting their neck stepped on a bit, because if you look at the numbers in Sicily, they're not that bad. I mean, you could say 500 people in Sicily. I mean, in Sicily got yesterday COVID, but guess what? They're not all going into the hospital and dying. I mean, the death rate here is 3 people a day, 2 people a day, 0 a day.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very low, and not that many hospitalizations. They're saying that 4 or 5% of the what do you call it? The quick tests are coming back positive.
Yeah. So that's
not that many are being tested. What?
That's a big point too, Alfred. One of the things in the decree is that they changed the criteria for the colors, right? Because we by now know the red, orange, yellow, the white zones.
Yeah.
So according to this new decree, they changed the criteria not to focus on infections, but in fact, focus on hospitalizations. Now, yesterday, Nello Musumeci, who's the president of the region, signed an ordinance saying no more red zones in Sicily, because while the numbers are going up. The hospitalizations are very stable. They continue to, keep dropping, and every victim is too many. But we are seeing 0, 1, or 2 victims. So that's the other big news.
Lester, I don't know if this is true or not, but as a lawyer, sometimes I could be the purveyor of misinformation because that's what lawyers do. That's really not true. But I read something online that kind of piqued my interest.
Yeah.
One of the pills that I take is a statin. With tens of millions of Americans who
Yeah.
have high blood pressure, they take these things called statins, right? I take a statin. And it's been very helpful to help me, whatever it is, the blood pressure or whatever it does, cholesterol, stuff like that. But they're finding in research that if you take a statin, it's actually an additional layer of protection, and that 30 or 35% of people who are taking statins are even more protected.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting. And the other one too was ibuprofen.
Wow.
So there are other things that they're finding right now. I mean, I'm waiting for Viagra, Esther, to be saying that that's going to help. Joe,
Good one, Al. Yeah, Al.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
really
very much.
needed that laugh. I really needed that laugh. So we have a lot of people here. I want to welcome all our viewers on Facebook and on YouTube. Great to see everyone. If you're new on this channel, welcome to another video of You, Me, and Sicily. We have this thing going on YouTube where you can help support this channel by joining a members only channel, and that just gives you access to some behind the scenes videos, special things, but it's also a way of just supporting us. It's $1.99 a month. So if you're on YouTube, hit the join when you're done with this. Also, don't forget to hit the like and share this. So on that note,
$1.99 is $1.99 is the price of a cup of coffee.
It's not, Al. It's not.
How much is coffee?
I paid $3 for my first Dunkin' Donuts. $3.
You're kidding. In the States, $3?
$3.
Well, coffee is going to be going up. They're having a coffee shortage. I told you that last week.
Yeah.
But it is tremendously helpful, and thanks to the donations that we've been getting from things like our private member group, is that this week Esther got a brand new computer that's enabling us to broadcast more effectively and more efficiently. And here it is. I'm in Sicily, she's in the United States, and the transmission is coming through clear as a button, practically. And that's hugely important that we have the proper equipment to communicate to our clients and our people who are watching our free videos. Of course, this is free. We have almost 340 hours of free stuff on our YouTube, You, Me, and Sicily YouTube. What?
You mean videos?
I mean, it's a lot.
Not hours.
Yeah, for you. The videos, they're live chat. And can you do me one more favor, folks? Every once in a while, can you share our stuff? We find out that when you share our stuff to some people on your friends list, they in turn become happy followers of what we're doing as well. So we never ask you to share our stuff. So today I'm saying, hey, how about helping us out? Share. We want to get 10,000 followers on YouTube. That's our goal for this year. So we're working at it. That's in addition to our 26,000 Facebook followers, who we really appreciate as well. But we want to get the YouTube up, because if we do that, then according to the algorithms that YouTube has, more and more people will get our programming as a suggested video. So it's all about the algorithms and stuff that I don't understand.
So Albert, Paul says, I'm a history buff like you guys. Any Sicilian history lessons for today? Ooh, good one. Okay. Any history lessons for today?
Paul, what would you like us to talk about? I mean, the Sicilian history is pretty.
No, let's do one fact. We haven't done one of those one fun facts to learn in a while.
All right. What do you want to do for fact, Esther? Like a Sicilian history fact?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, who was the who was the communist who was born in Sicily and went to Rome, and he led the underground communist guerrilla movement
Ooh,
against the Nazis during the Second World War? This guy was a hero in the communist underground movement fighting the Nazis in Rome. Who was that guy? I'll give
I
you
have
two more
no
hints.
idea. I have no
All
idea.
right. All right. He ended up getting elected as a senator for life, number one. And number two, next to Antonella di Messina, he's probably the most famous painter Sicily ever had. His name is Renato Gattuso, La
Oh, that's right.
Buccaria, you know,
He
right?
did
And people, the
the
reason
market
people
in
don't,
Palermo.
people, that's right. The reason that the Americans don't know so much about Gattuso is because of his communist affiliation.
Yeah.
Okay, they played it down. The same thing with Pirandello, the famous writer, playwright from
Poet,
Agrigento,
the poet. Yeah.
poet. No, but he was really a playwright, right? He uh, was he's probably the most famous writer of the 20th century. Okay, but you never heard about him in America. Why? Because he was patronized and supported at the beginning of his career by the
Mhm.
fascists, more specifically by Mussolini. And again, whitewashed. You have no idea how many Italians during the pre-Second World War era who made contributions to all the sciences and mathematics were later kind of like whitewashed off the history books because of their Italian background, not their fascist background, but their Italian background during that period of time. So that's an interesting little factoid from Alfred for today.
Now, I want to point people. Paul says he likes some ancient history. We did an entire episode called Sicily's First Settlers, where we went in depth about the Greek and Roman periods. And we keep talking, Alfred, that we're going to do next the Arab and the Norman, which is something I need to work on. So I'm either thinking of doing
Well, I have an ancient one for you. Is it Paul?
Paul.
Is it
Yes.
Paul that asked that question? All
Yeah.
right, let me give you this one over here. This is from the Twisted History of Alfred Zappala. Everybody knows about the fall. Everybody knows about the fall of Troy. Am I correct? You
Yeah.
know, Helen of Troy. She was kidnapped by that guy Paris. Troy, of course, is up in modern day Turkey. And then all the Greeks. Troy was the wife of a Greek commander, and all the Greeks went up there and they sieged. They laid siege to Troy for 10 years. And then
Yeah.
finally one day they put a bunch of guys in the Trojan horse and they left it, and then they faked out the Trojans. But in any case, one of the princes was a guy by the name of Aeneas. Virgil wrote about him in Virgil's Aeneid. Aeneas, heroic guy, great fighter, good commander. Well, he left after the fall of Troy. And where did he go? Well, according to ancient Sicilian mythology, he landed in Sicily. Did you know that, Esther? And from Sicily, this goes back a long time. His descendants went on the peninsula and went as far as Rome, and even the founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus, were alleged to be descendants
Wow.
of Aeneas. How's that, huh? That's a
That's a
pretty
good one, Al.
interesting story.
That's a good
I,
one.
you know, I took.
Hey, Al,
I am fascinated with that stuff. I am fascinated, Paul. Thank you for answering me the question.
no, that
That
period, the Roman and the Greek period here was so interesting, right? Because, when the Romans, there were all the fights, the Greeks came first, but when the Romans were trying to conquer the island, there were always these battles with the Carthaginians. So it was always
yeah,
something going on this island, right? For
for a
millennia, there
long
were
time.
fights for a long time. So that's an
Of course,
interesting.
the Sicilian record, though. is 0, I think, and 32 as a victor. They don't win. They always get taken over by, the Vikings, the Arabs, the Normans, the
Yeah,
Romans, the
but Al,
Spanish,
some of
English, Austrians.
But some, if you look at those conquerors, a lot of them created what we know of as Sicily today, right? They left their mark not only in the way Sicily looks, the architecture, the ancient ruins that still exist all over Sicily, but also on the cuisine. You look at the cuisine, and you can see that all the conquerors left some kind of an impact. And also, Alfred, I would venture to say, you take a look at, for example, the Greeks, and for example, the Arabs, which are the two that I'm going to choose. They really did impact current Sicily as it is, the city structure, the farming. The Arabs introduced new irrigation, the way the cities were laid out. So they introduced a lot of foods like the pistachio, the lemon, the almonds, a lot of things that were during that period still exist in Sicily today. And you take a look at some of the most important structures, right? You look at for instance, the Duomo in Ortigia. I mean, that Duomo was once a place where the Romans gathered, then, the Greeks worship gods. Then the Romans gathered. Then it was turned into a mosque. Then it was turned into a Christian structure. So you take a look at something like the Duomo in Ortigia, and you can still see the Greek ancient columns on there. So even though they came, they all left incredible impact, had incredible impact on the island.
I've been studying very heavily for the last 6 months the Muslim dominance in Sicily. And in order for me to get a proper understanding, I had to kind of go a little bit further back. And really, you have to break it up into two different types of dominations here in Sicily. You had one that was kind of loosey-goosey with the Berbers, the Moors, the so-called Moors, and so forth. They had already been up in Spain pretty
Yeah.
heavily, and they were, a lot in Spain, right? The Sultanate was up there, but they were into trade and business and all this other stuff. But then, as you know, in Islam, the Shia and the Sunni kind of broke up right from the beginning, and these folks were adherents of the Sunni uh, sect. Then, when the other ones came around, all of a sudden things tightened up. The Shia were much more driven by the theocratic element, the mullahs. Okay, so when those folks came in, then there was an entirely different type of occupation in Sicily. I never realized that that you can't paint the brush of Sicily's Muslim occupation with the same brush because you had different mindsets.
Right.
And but the impression, the things that they did for Sicily, uh, to this day, Esther, has paid us huge benefits, in my view. There oppression? Yes, there was oppression. They don't talk about the oppression, but there was oppression. Matter of fact, no books talk about the oppression, but there was plenty,
Yeah.
and there was plenty. Okay, from sexual slavery to slavery in general to a whole bunch of other things. And I don't want to say balancing the equities. I can't say that, but the good far outweighs the bad. I think Sicily probably is a better place overall
I agree.
because the Muslims were here than if they weren't here. I mean, in every war, there's violence and there's terrible things that happen. But I think once the cultures kind of got together, uh, that's when after that brief spurt of violence. I think we're better off with the Muslims being here at that period of time. My own opinion.
Charlie says, I believe Shaka has strong Arabic influence. Yes, even the name Shaka is Arabic. Yeah, for sure. That,
Yeah,
especially on the western, right, Mazzara del Vallo, where they
yeah,
first came, Marsala, that whole area, Palermo, lots of Arabic influence for sure.
yep,
Thank you.
definitely.
We had a beautiful, rich conversation as always. Thank you. That's sweet. So, Al, I hear the kids around. Are there our neighbors out?
That little midget, I mean, that little mental kid, I mean, not mental kid, that little pain in the, I can't say that, that little kid that never stops yelling,
All
that
right,
kid.
Al.
Uh, we now have, listen to this, the last 2 months, right? People next door moved into us. They're very nice people, except they have 3 kids, 3 little kids, which I guess is okay. But the kicker is they have 3 dogs, not one, two, three
Wait a sec.
dogs,
And what about the cats?
and
Oh,
one cat. Right.
yeah.
The people downstairs, the one that I complain about is this kid. He's the most spoiled little brat, I swear to God, I met in my life. The kid, he's one of
You
those
add to it by giving
screamers.
him sweets. You add to it by giving him
No, I don't
sweets
give
all
him
the time.
sweets. I gave him sweets once, but just to shut him up, and it didn't work. But no, you know, this too shall pass, Esther. Believe me, this
Oh, you'll
too
be fine.
shall pass. Pretty
Alfred,
good.
what do you have for Sunday lunch? Did you have your regular sausage?
Sunday lunch, yeah, I know. I've been ever since you've left. It hasn't been the same. I have to say that much. Okay, just so you know, I've been, scouring the cupboards for something edible to eat.
Oh,
But
please. I
like,
love
for
to plan your
example, in the
food.
cupboards today, I found some fresh salsiccia sausage with pomodoro e formaggio,
Sausage.
tomatoes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, a nice sausage. Then I found the fresh pepper that I
Good.
roasted.
You roasted.
Okay, that cupboard was like really paying dividends today. Then I found a couple of white potatoes that I boiled and some string beans,
Yeah.
and I made myself my mom's potato and string bean salad that you just drizzle
Oh,
on a
no.
little bit.
Oh, no. Mm,
So as you can see, I probably will be down a couple of kilos by the time you get back here.
good.
No one to make me pizza though. No one to make me pizza, Esther. I'm gonna
All right.
have to figure out how to make pizza myself.
I made my mom pizza yesterday.
How did your mom like it?
Oh, she loved it.
Your
I did it.
pizza?
Yeah, I did it the Sicilian style, like I did in the video. Um,
Did you buy
but
the dough?
yeah, I bought the dough and I rolled it out like I always do. I bought a bottle of passata. It wasn't the good passata dough, Alfred, like usual. And then, I did a little salt, pepper. Then I got a mozzarella ball. I'm telling you, nothing was the same. Mozzarella ball was a little bit dry. Put it on there, then a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Then what? Oh, oregano, hello. And then a little bit of mushrooms, and it was great.
Did your mother like it?
She loved it. She said it was the best pizza she's had, and she's been craving, and the pizza around here wasn't great. So, and my mom, Alfred, she'll be honest.
Yeah,
She's honest.
she will. No, your pizza is the best I've had too.
Jimmy
Frankly, it
Picks,
is.
thank you for that super chat. Thanks for all you do to promote Sicily. Al, I'm smoking a Padron 1964 anniversary Imperial cigar. Cheers to you,
Thanks,
Jimmy
Jim.
Picks. Jimmy Picks, thank you. And I saw you talked about the pictures as well, and I'll email you. What a great supporter, and we thank everyone who's been supporting.
Jimmy Picks is a great guy. Now, Esther, what do we mail out to our clients this week?
I did the Trinacrias, which
All
we
the
have.
Trinacrias are in the mail?
Yeah, we have 3 silver sterling Trinacrias left.
Left over?
Yep, left over. So if people are interested, they can message me. The other thing, let me just go through a couple of these. So many great people on here. I believe the name Rachiti means of Richard, of Ratched. Do you know? Rachiti is a
Ooh,
popular name.
don't know. Got me there.
Can you
Got me
talk
there.
about immigration to the U.S. and why families went to Brazil first, then on to the United States?
Not everybody did that. A lot of them did. To get into Brazil was far easier back in those days than to get into the United States. There were different type of workers too. Okay, the ones that went to Brazil and Argentina
Yeah,
were manual laborers. They had bridges to build. They had they needed a tremendous need for stone masons,
right,
railroads, build. They're all infrastructure stuff, and they actively and aggressively uh, marketed themselves into Italy. Okay, but guaranteeing a job, etc. And in Argentina's case, and both in Brazil's case, the populations today, in Argentina's case, over 75% of the population can claim some sort of Italian blood, if you can imagine that. The United States, they came over in two different waves. The first wave was at the end of the 19th century, when the
hmm,
Industrial Revolution was going on in New York, Chicago, and primarily the Eastern Seaboard, Philadelphia, and in the fishing industries of New Orleans, Louisiana, and then up north in the Pacific Northwest.
right.
However, it tightened up. Okay, I think about 2 million or 3 million Italians came over in those days. 1 million of them, by the way, ended up going back. People don't understand that about 50% of the immigrants at the end of the 19th and 20th centuries ended up re immigrating back to Italy later on in life. But there was a lot, and they herded them. You know how they herded them. You've seen these tenements that they lived in my hometown, Lawrence, or Boston, or New York, or Chicago, or Philly. They lived terribly. I mean, they had little Italies all over the place, and they worked in sweatshops. Well, after a while, other ethnic groups, especially at the beginning part of the 20th century, became very resentment towards the Italian immigrants in the United States, and they forced politicians, because they're politicians, to change the immigration law. So that big faucet of immigrants that was coming into the United States, then the spigot got shut off. Then it opened up again after the Second World War. After World War II, when the United States was actively involved in rebuilding Italy once again, they opened up the gates and they allowed a second wave of Italians who came in. Now, a lot of these Italians came in for many different reasons. One of the reasons that they came in the 50s at least, and 60s at least, was because Italy still had a draft. And families who had kids growing up did not want their kids to serve in the Italian Army or Navy or get compulsory military service for 2 years. So they came over.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's like two different waves. Now, the United States has got 12 million people. I believe it's 12 million, maybe 17 million, between 12 and 17 million people of Italian uh, heritage in the United States. And the largest subcategory of Italian immigration into the United States is Sicilian
Wait a second
immigration.
now. Al, there's
Yeah,
5 million Sicilians. There's 12 million Americans of Sicilian descent, not Italian, Sicilian descent. You said
12
Italian,
million of us. No,
of
there's
American,
17 million of it. Yeah, there's 17 million of Italian descent.
of
12 million of
those,
those are, yeah,
of those, the
of those
largest
12 million.
subgroup.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a,
right. It's the largest subgroup.
right.
Right,
So just
right,
to go
right.
back, by the way, to immigration, people need to understand that Sicilians didn't necessarily want to leave the island at the turn of the century or around, the first decade, but there was drought here, there was famine here, there was, there were earthquakes, there were a lot of things happening on the island, and poverty was going on, and so Sicilians left here seeking a better future for themselves and their family. And that I think is a really important notion to understand, that they didn't want to leave this paradise. They didn't want to leave. In fact, we have many people who go to their ancestral home. And I clearly remember your cousin Josephine, when we took her to her ancestral home of Tusa, she sat up there and said, why did my family leave this place? And, I explained to her that while it was beautiful, it is beautiful. Sicily is paradise. Life was very difficult. And for many people, it still really is very difficult. There's still poverty. There's still unemployment. So, they left specifically to the United States to give their family a better future. And now it's so heartwarming to see generations later, like for you, Alfred, for example, and many of our viewers that are descendants of their grandparents who came during that period and want to go back and reconnect to Sicily. So for me, that is very heartwarming. Let me just say just this, because I got to read this. Al, you're looking good. How much have you lost?
About 125 pounds. Esther's in Boston.
Funny.
Jim, what can I say? Let me just say one thing before you do another thing, Esther.
Yeah.
Is my grandfather's uncle actually emigrated from Trecastani to Brazil. And in Sicily, he was working on the railroad. And he was solicited to be a conductor in Brazil. And the guy went there and he ended up spending the rest of his life over there. My family never saw him again.
Yeah.
And he had a great job with the Brazilian railway system. Of course, in those days, Brazil was even more backward than than Sicily was, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Silvio's
Australia
here.
as well. Australia as well.
Australia.
The immigrants went there, right?
Canada.
What are you saying?
Did you say Canada?
Oh, of course. We were talking about Toronto.
Silvio is here. Silvio Nacitrezza, although he ate, I'm getting hungry just listening to your food.
It was good, Silvio. The food today was very good. I bought this AlItalia at Conad. It was the first time I had decent.
Really? You didn't try the Puggy Poco is better. Hey, Ali Rayport.
I got the fat one this time, Esther. I didn't get the skinny one. I got the fat one.
Please tell us about Sicily Messina. So, Ali, if you go to our YouTube channel and you go to Explore Sicily, there's an entire episode on the province of Messina where we talk about the city of Messina, and you'll see some other videos there. Now, this is a very good point. I think people get a little bit confused about this, that in the provinces, in the 9 provinces of Sicily, there's also a city in that name. So in Messina, there's a city of Messina. In Catania, there's a city of Catania. In Syracuse, there's a city of Syracuse. So I'm not sure if you're talking about the province or the city. Hey, Al, I just want to say one more thing about the okay, you go first, and then I want to say something about immigration.
All right, I want to talk a little bit. I want to elongate and expand on Messina. Okay, first of all, a current event story. Okay, yesterday, 2 nudists. This kind of irritated me a little bit, Esther. 2 nudists were arrested for sunbathing nude on a beach in Messina. Okay, and they were fined €3,000 for public indecency. These are 2 tourists. Okay, personally, I think that's stupid, because all you have to do, if you want to see like little naked boobies running around, go to San Vito Lo Capo when the Northerners come in all summer long. All the Northerners are freaking naked from the waist up. But I think, not that I'm a nudist either, because I'm too big to be a nudist, but I think that they should have some nude beaches here in Sicily for those people who like to do that.
Well, some people
I know up in Tuscany. I know in Tuscany they have plenty of agroturismo places over there where it's naked. But that's one issue. Okay. When you talk about Messina, you cannot talk about Messina like just Messina. You've got the urban area, like she said, Messina, the city, the capital. which
Yeah.
was devastated by earthquakes and Allied bombings, and really hasn't recovered since the beginning of the 20th century. It's kind of like a second
Yeah.
tier city, and I don't want to be offensive to those folks because they're wonderful people up there, but it hasn't really got its footing back since the Second World War, and then after the Second World War, when there was a huge earthquake. That's number one. However, there's another type of Messina that's mountainous. The Nebrodi Mountains is
Yeah.
ginormous. The backside of Mount Etna Park, that's almost a different world than the urban
Right.
part of the
I mean,
province of
the
Messina.
province of Messina is not the
Wait a
biggest.
minute, I'm not finished. I'm
Okay,
not
go ahead.
finished. Okay. And then the top part, going from uh, the very top of Sicily, going west, is the beach areas of Messina that have, great beaches and wonderful water. So when you're talking about Messina, the province, there's lots of different types of that story that needs to be told. And Esther did a
Yeah.
great job in her video. Okay,
Yeah, and if
that's
you
what I was.
again, if you go to explore Sicily, I mean, we're talking about, every province has its own treasures. Perhaps the most notable in the province of Messina is Taormina, but as you go around, there's also Santo Stefano de Camastra, which is another one of the videos that we just published. You've got, as Alfred said, many towns in the Nebrodi Mountains. You've got the beautiful seashore. So that's a great town. I think Rajport is going there to study. Hey, we've got Professor Rosario Faraci, our good friend, professor from the University of Catania, says 25 years ago, when going to the U.S. for my first time, I found lots of Sicilian Americans in Texas, in Galveston,
Yes.
San Antonio, yes, in Fort Worth, and even Bryan College, where I stayed for 10 months. Rosario, we have a
Yep.
lot of our fans from those towns, specifically Galveston, San Antonio. In fact, I just met our friend a couple weeks ago down in Architrezza, Alfred. He's from San Antonio, Texas. So that's great. Good to see. Let me just tell you about the work that Professor Rosario Faraci is doing in the University of Catania. He is not only a professor of business, but also entrepreneurship, and he has some startups. Now, there's a guy that keeps busy doing great stuff for Sicily. So a big shout out to him. And thanks to him, we made, I believe it's gone through, if I'm not mistaken, some great donations to charities in AlItalia, thanks to his help.
Let's get back to Professor Rosario Faraci as, in my view, one of the major points of lights in all of Sicily.
Yeah.
You're really understating his effect that he's had on the University of Catania. Just recently this week, they came out with the new rankings, and Catania has moved up in its ranking, University of Catania, which is a big school, 67,000 students, okay? Huge. Yeah. It's now up there with the University of Sapienza and some of these other Pisa, some of these schools. And it's because of a guy's enlightened men, enlightened intellects like Rosario Faraci, who, by the way, I see him more and more and more being quoted in newspapers and on TVs, not only in Sicily, but throughout Italy, who are realizing that some of these brilliant intellects in Sicily have a lot to say that can influence not only Sicily, but Italy. So I want to, bow my head in respect to Rosario. He's a great friend of ours and his lovely wife, Agatha. And did you know he's also building his house? He's building a house by himself or something. I see
He's
him every day
always
on
doing,
Facebook. He's got
he's
a
always
hammer or
doing
something, tapping away, tap, tap, tap. Rosario, we have to get together for Granita, huh? Whenever you say, we'll go, okay? Love you, guy.
Peter Pietro says most people emigrated from Montedoro, Sicily, working in sulfur mines to working in coal mines. Yeah. So a lot of people don't know that in Montedoro, Sicily, was one of the places. There were others, of course, around the island where they mined sulfur. That was a big, part of Sicilian history that's not talked about a lot. A lot of the miners were children when they went in, and they worked until they were adults. Obviously, with the mining industry and sulfur, it's a dangerous job. A lot of them got cancer or other illnesses or died while mining. So it was a big story, and it's with everything. Montedoro is one of our episodes that we did, right? And the little kids were called Carusi, right, Al? The little kids that went in, they were really slaves. I mean, the parents got paid money to allow their children to go to these mines and work from sun up to sun down. In fact, the poet, or not the poet, the writer that we spoke about earlier, Alfred. Pirandello.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful saying that he has, a poem that he has in front of one of the mines in Montedoro that talks about the Carusi and the hardships and how, they went into the mines. It was dark. They came out of the mines. It was dark, and they didn't understand the whole thing that during the day there was sun. So we did, Alfred, also in Chianciana. When we went to Chianciana, I met that miner, right? And he talked about, so it's Chianciana in the province of Agrigento, and I met this guy and I started talking to him on the street. And he said, from the age of 12 until 20, he worked in the mine, and it was tough work. But
well, Esther,
it was a difficult time here in Sicily, and that was, one of the economic, one of the things that helped the economy a little bit.
Esther, I just wanted to give my view on this whole business of the sulfur mines, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course, Sal.
First of all, the guys, the sulfur mine owners didn't give money to anybody. What they did was they loaned money to poor people, and in return, their kids were indentured servants.
Yeah.
In other words, they had to work off that loan, number one. Number two, where did the sulfur go to? Did you ever think about that? I'm going to tell you. It went to two countries primarily. It went to the United States of America and Great Britain to power the steam engines for the Industrial Revolution, all right? Meanwhile, thousands of kids in Sicily ended up with lifelong injuries, deformities, right?
Yeah.
So that wealthy industrialists in Great Britain, and here's the irony, in the United States, especially the United States, those big steam generators powered the windmill, the water power that powered the electricity in the sweatshops that were manned by Sicilians, immigrants. So they were screwed, blued, and tattooed in Sicily first, and then when they came to the United States. I'll tell you what, I demand reparations for the Sicilian people from the United States of America. Esther, let's start a movement. What do you think about that?
Oh, Alfred, I'm just being so entertained.
I'm going to send President Biden today. I'm going to send him a bill for a few $1 billion. Let him put it in his infrastructure. Maybe we can get it through. Who the hell knows?
Silvio says, guys, someone in Sicily used to say the metaphori, il siciliano è come le albero del Carubo. I suoi rami maestoso arrivano lontano, ma sue radici sono solide e profondo. Next post is translation. Let's see. I'm waiting for that translation. Carolyn says, "Me too,
Alfred. Reparations. There we go. We're gonna start a movement."
Silvio, we'll
take the money. We'll take the money and we'll give it to the poor people in Sicily. How does that sound?
That's right, Jimmy. It's the same as the coal industry here in West Virginia. They paid the workers.
Yep.
and would only spend it on the coal company. It was a terror. But, it's so unbelievable that Sicily had the monopoly, Alfred. Another thing about it had the monopoly
Of
for
sulfur.
sulfur. Yeah, that's an incredible. Silvio, I'm waiting for your translation here. Speaking of, I was having a little bit of trouble with that Sicilian, but for those of you guys that want to have learn a Sicilian, an Italian conversation, I should say Italian conversation with some Sicilian phrases. We have an Italian conversation class going on with my friend Stefania from Catania. And if you're interested, message me or send me an email. Those have been
I
going
wish somebody
great.
wrote some books, Esther, about Sicily.
Someone, wait a second. Someone wrote some books about Sicily, and they're
Oh, happy day. I wish someone would put them on sale, say like the 3 books for $19 right
19
now.
or 19.99.
No, $19, free shipping, available to ship this week. My daughter Jennifer and my granddaughter Rose are going to pack them up this week and ship them all out. So if you like one of my books, which talks a lot about what we've been talking about today, they're funny, they're humorous, they're lovely, people love them. Go to alfredzappala.com. That's alfredzappala.com and fire away and buy some books. And by the way, if you go to Kindle, they're all available on Kindle too as a download. And even The Reverse Immigrant is available there as a print on demand because we're out of the first.
Hey, Al, look at the new banner I have going on. How's that?
What, you, me, and Sicily?
How's that banner going?
Oh, the one that's going on the bottom?
Yeah. Like it?
Why don't we put some stock prices over there?
All right, Rosario said, Silvio, metaphor of Alberto Di Carrera. Sicily is like a carob tree, great and long extended branches, but solid and deep roots. I love it. Again, Sicily is like a carob tree.
Yeah, it is.
Great and long extended, but solid and deep roots. I'm going to put up the Sicilian version again. Very, very, very cool. Maureen, make sure you message me on Facebook or also anywhere else. The coal mines in West Virginia were my grandparents' first real job in the U.S. It was run by some rather unsavory Sicilians in West Virginia, Alfred. I didn't know that.
There's no such thing as a savory, unsavory Sicilian. Actually, though, may I say something? Have you noticed all the mafiosi that have been getting arrested in Sicily lately? Seems like I can't pick up the paper where they're breaking up. You know what the biggest thing is right now? Stealing catalytic converters from automobiles. They caught 2 guys from Naples, or Sicilian guys who were bringing them up to Naples with about 200. And I'm saying, why the hell do they want a catalytic converter? It's very simple, because there is minute amounts of platinum, rhodium, and another copper in these things. And what they do is they melt them down and they sell the what do you call it? The platinum or whatever. So the cops had on a table about 200 of these things, right?
That's crazy.
And it said that the value of the raw materials would be 50,000 euro. Can you imagine that? So there's a gang that's going. It's not so much in Catania as much as it is in Palermo. There was a gang going around stealing catalytic converters, and they caught them. Finally, they caught these guys. They were taking a ferry out of Palermo, and they got caught. What a bunch of idiots! But anyways.
Okay, so let me just answer this question. Where is it? Okay. Coming to Sicily August 1st, do we need the green card too? Yes, and I spoke a little bit about the green certificate or the green pass a little bit earlier. It looks like this. And you have to carry it around, and starting August 6th. So if you're coming after August 6th, you will need some kind of certificate. As of now, as of the taping of the show, there's nothing on their website that allows Americans, but we talked about this. If you have your CDC card,
that'll be good enough.
that says you got vaccinated, or they need a test, and I believe it's 48 hours. Alfred, ever since they announced this Green Pass, the bookings for vaccinations have skyrocketed in Italy. Also, more people getting tested. So, the goal of this Green Pass, Green Certificate, and again, we talked about it at length at the beginning of the show, was to sort of save the season, right? Save the season because of this variant running. So you would have to have it to go eat indoors at restaurants, also museums, some sporting events, and there's fines associated with it. But they're still working out the kinks, sort of say. So if you're coming here as an American or from any other country that's not in the EU or the Schengen countries, then keep an eye open to news coming on how you can get your Green Pass. The other thing I would advise people,
the Green Pass, Pass is for Europeans, Esther.
Let me finish.
For American.
Right. Sweetie Pie, I know. Sweetie Pie, I know, but people coming from any other country will be required to show some kind of a proof of vaccination or test. And it could come from as a form of the Green Certificate. There's no word yet. But let me just finish what I was saying, Al. I would strongly suggest for anyone who's coming to Sicily in the next month, first of all, call your airlines a week before you go. Secondly, call your hotel. Make sure everything is okay. If you have a museum, I know a lot of people have museum or concert tickets, make sure you call them and ask them for the requirements, right? Because things are changing very fast. People are accommodating to the new rules. So I would say specifically call those venues. That's my
for those people you hope for the best, you prepare for the worst. You ought to call up your hotels if you're in Rome or Venice or Pisa or Florence or wherever.
Yeah.
Find out what their policy is.
That's exactly what I said.
In the event that when you're checking in and you take the quick test, it comes back positive. Because you're going to have to be quarantined here. You're not going to be allowed to get on a plane with a positive test. So I know that they have these COVID-friendly hotels around. You need to get up to speed a little bit on that, where they will deliver the food right to your door. I know Deco, I found out that Deco supermarket will deliver the food to your hotel door. That's a really good thing. But you can't be going all over. If you're quarantined and you break the quarantine in Italy and you're caught, that's a criminal offense.
Yeah.
Okay?
No joking around with that. Jeanette,
no fooling around like that.
Jeanette, after this broadcast, go ahead and scroll to the beginning of this video because we talked at length about this. But again, it's not clear how it's going to be used by those people not in the EU. Let me just see here. Jim, if traveling within Italy, will you need a green pass as an American? If traveling, right now, you do not need a green pass when traveling. But they are working on new language about how the traveling. Right now, you don't need the green pass when going into public transportation or things like that.
Bring your own. Listen. Okay, listen to me. Okay, I'm putting my lawyer hat on right now, Esther. Okay.
Yeah.
My clients, I'm advising. Take multiple copies of proof of your vaccination with you. Okay, that says Pfizer, first shot, second shot, Medina, whatever it is. Keep it in a safe place. Keep one copy with your passport. Keep another copy in your travel bag, okay? Because rest assured, if you go to a restaurant and everybody is showing their green pass, and that's for Europeans, right? You're going to have to show something. And what do you have to show? You have evidence from the United States of America that you were vaccinated. They'll see the word Pfizer and you'll be all set. That's what my advice until further guidance comes out, Esther. Okay?
Yeah. And again,
that's
And you know, things are changing so quickly, Alfred.
That's today's right.
What? Yeah. So things are changing so quickly that you just have to sort of keep your eye on it. And, you know, we try to keep you guys as updated as possible on everything going on. Alfred, how has Etna been behaving?
It's been great since the last eruption that ruined, that got everything filthy dirty 3 days ago.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, this Sahara heat wave that's coming up from Sahara, we're going to have, it's going to be a hell of a week. I tell you right now, this place is going to be on fire.
What are you going to do?
I'm worried about
what are you going to do to keep cool?
What are you talking about? I'm in my underwear right now. What else do you want me to do?
Too much information. Too much information.
Joke, just a joke. I want to say a big shout out to my pal Jimmy. I hope he's feeling okay. Joe Ascione, Mike Miano, and Mary Miano, Caroline, Jody.
Maria.
Who?
Maria's here. She said best advice
Maria.
from both of you.
Maria. She was a cover girl for Hairnet, Revere Hairnet.
Aquanet.
Did you know that?
Aquanet.
Aquanet. Right. Maria, I miss you. A lot of our friends, we love you very much.
Hopefully I'll get to see her.
Yeah, that's a good idea, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys, I think that's it for us, right?
Thank you so much for watching this. Make sure you hit the like button on YouTube, also on Facebook. Subscribe to this channel, and we'll be back with another live on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Sicily time. In the meantime, we have tons of other videos on our YouTube, You, Me, and Sicily. Alfred, I miss you.
I miss you too, Bunsta. Talk to you later.
Ciao.
Okay?
Arrivederci.
Bye-bye.